Hi, good evening. Nice to see everybody.
How are you?
Okay, thank God.
Well, Hashem.
Okay, here we go. I'm just putting on the Facebook 1 second. Right, so there was one last halacha we had to do before we got cut off, the Shulchan Aruch. So I'm just going to do that, and then we go to the next chapter, next siman. So we said like this, right? The Shulchan Aruch says that menudeh umsora asurim laniach tefillin. A person who's excommunicated or a metzor, leper, they're not allowed to put tefillin. I did see in the Mishnah Berurah, by the way, there are those that argue with this. Some say you can, some say whatever, all kinds of opinions, but Shulchan Aruch seems to say that you cannot. So that's the halacha, pretty much, and the rest is history. Okay, so we'll go on to the next chapter. Next siman, which is okay, so we're doing Lam Tet. So it says like this in the tour. Tefillin sheketaban Eved or Isha or Katan. Tefillin that was written by a slave or a woman or a Katan or a kid, right? Obed Gilurim or Goy, Beisel Mumar or a Jewish heretic, right? Renegade. Psulin, these are all pasul. The whole pasul, the ketaban, says whoever is disqualified to write it, pasul bechol tikun asyatam. He's also pasul to do any kind of right? Production of the tefillin, any kinds of production there. Kitavan apikoros, right? So if it was written by a heretic, isarfu, they have to be burnt. Why, by the way, does it have to be burnt? Because when he says the name of God, he's thinking about his idol, so it has the whole thing is tainted there. So you may think, how can you burn them? These are names of God there, but the intention is for idolatry. So this is the reason why. Okay, so if they were found in the hands of a heretic, but we don't know if he wrote that. Maybe somebody else wrote it. Maybe just bought it. So it says it should be buried in the ground. So it says it should be done by a goy who's kosher, whatever that means. We'll see what that means. Also, it says if you're buying tefillin from a goy, right, you shouldn't pay more than the value of the tefillin. So if he wants to charge like exorbitant amount, let's say $10,000 he wants to charge you, and you're saying, oh well, I'll save it from him. No, we don't want to do that. It's not a good idea to do that. Because if you do that one time, then they'll steal more tefillin and sell it also for expensive. So it's going to cause like a cycle of violence there, right? A cycle of injustice there going on, right? Corruption. So therefore, we tell them like this: if you want to sell it for the regular price, I'll buy it from you. Otherwise, no. Okay. So also it says it should be bought from somebody who's expert, who knows all the laws of lacking words and full words, and like we discussed, right? Vav, Yud, all these things. So it says if he bought it from somebody who's not expert, 2 or 3 boxes. בודק מהם תפילין אחד של יד ושל ראש בכרך ראשון. So he says what you should do is check, like do a check, like not the whole thing, but you check like one in the box, right? Something like that, one pair, right? So he says, how do you do that? You check one of the hand and one of the head, בכרך ראשון, in the first box, וכן בבית ובג', and also the second one, third one. Do check one, each one. וכן בד', also 4. וכן בכולם, also all of them, he says. ואם מצאן כשרים, כולם הוחזקו בתפילין שהוחזקו בכשרות. So if all of them are kosher, that means that we assume it's all kosher, the whole bundle there. Okay, good. That's the end of it, I guess. So let's see the Bet Yosef. There's some interesting concepts here. Okay. So, doesn't Bet Yosef. I'm sorry, this is the wrong one. 1 second. Okay, so as we said, right, if it was written by a goy or a woman or a katan or a kid, write up Perek HaSholech. It's also over there in Gittin Mem Hey Amud Bet. V'alif lab midichtiv. Where does he learn his halachot from? Because it says in the pasuk, "Ukshatam uktaftam." It says, right, you should tie them and write them. Kol sheishno b'kshira. Whoever ties it, yeshno b'ktiba. He also writes it. So what does that mean? Only the men are obligated, so therefore, only the men can write the tefillin. The whole sheishno b'kshira. But whoever doesn't tie it, doesn't wear it. In other words, eno b'ktiba. It also doesn't write it either. Katav Mordechai, says Mordechai, Katan afilu higia lechinuch. So it says the Katan, even though he's already at age of chinuch, the age of training, im katab tefillin psulin. If he wrote tefillin, it's still pasul. Why is that? The letter b'kshira, because he's not obligated to wear tefillin yet. Midoraita from the Torah, he's not obligated. Ubehu b'raita mani. So it says mane nami masur. Right, so so then we go on to Rambam. So he says, Rambam katvu gam ken. He also wrote this halacha. Natan tam. So he gives a reason for this. Shekol shemuzar ala kshira, that whoever is obligated to tie the tefillin, to wear the tefillin, umamin, but he believes in it. Who shekotev? He's the one who writes the tefillin. Klomar meshumad masur. So therefore, this comes to exclude somebody who's a renegade or heretical, right? Kivan sheparku all. Since these people already like gave up the Jewish religion, they already left the Judaism. Enam ma'aminim mitzvot. So therefore, they don't believe in mitzvot. Obviously, right? Once they leave the religion, they don't believe in the mitzvot. Kachem divrei Rashi. This is also the words of Rashi. Ubelchot tefillin says lots of tefillin katuv. It's over there in Yosef. It says over there, Masur Israel Hamusar Mamon Chavero the Malchut. So right. So now he explains, right? What is Masur? So he says this is a Jew who informs on his fellow Jew, right? To the authorities. So what does that mean? He says, right, it's a monetary thing, that he tells the authorities, oh yeah, he didn't pay his taxes, go and get collected from him. He squeals on him. Right? So he's considered to be, a big sinner, a person like this. So it says these are the people that it's a mitzvah to kill them and not to save their life. In other words, he's considered to be totally off the way. And he's considered to be, even though he's Jewish, but we consider him like a goy. So what does that mean? The truth is, he's even worse than a goy. But what we mean here is that like a goy, that just like a goy can't write the tefillin, he also cannot write the tefillin. And that's the idea. Okay. Let's go on. So it says,
I do have a question. I'm sorry.
sure.
The Masur, he is also a Nidui, no? Masur, right?
Okay, so who put him in Nidui?
Well, he went in informed the Jew to the authorities, no?
Yes.
So, So he, well.
So who put him in? Who put him in Nidui?
Himself, I guess.
So
well, the rabbi.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but the truth is, the reason I'm chuckling is because there is such a thing like that a person could put himself in Nidui. This does exist, such a concept like that. Believe it or not, that's why I was chuckling. But the truth is, we don't know for sure if he's excommunicated, because it could be that nobody did it, whatever. I don't know, for some reason or other.
Nobody knows, I guess.
It could be they don't know, or or just right. It didn't get to the authorities yet. The Beit Din didn't find out.
Okay.
So they didn't excommunicate him. But he is what he is.
So, but he's excommunicated from heaven, so to speak.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, the thing is, that when we talk, the concept of heaven is not exactly the same as the concept of being excommunicated by humans, by human beings.
Is that a
because
when
because the concept of the heaven, it's like it doesn't have all the ramifications that being excommunicated by a bet din has, or a rabbi. It's not the same thing exactly.
So does that he's double excommunicated if he's excommunicated from the Bedin and heaven, or it's just one end?
Well, I mean, it's two different things, really. The truth is, it's two different things, but it's very clear that being excommunicated from the earthly court is worse because that already has a lot of ramifications. How they treat you.
Okay, thank
Practically
you.
speaking, you get all kinds of punishments and all kinds of things.
Oh boy. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So okay. So anyway, right? So it says over there like this, that as we said, so it says, and also that which we said, right, is a renegade. That means he's a renegade to the whole Torah. He doesn't believe in anything. Or it could be that it's just one mitzvah, he's a renegade, but he does it to anger God, right? In other words, he's like spiteful, out of spite. But he says if he's just a renegade for one mitzvah, because of the lust that he has, because of the lust. Mashma de la porek all who is not considered to be like a total heretic, this guy. So, right, let's give you an example, right? And you understand. For instance, let's say a guy is, he likes to eat, Big Macs, hamburgers, whatever. So, okay, so there's one mitzvah that he transgresses, right? He eats Big Macs, but what do you call it? It doesn't mean he's breaking the whole Torah. And he does it because, he likes it, whatever, not because he wants to, out of spite. So, therefore, says Maran Beit Yosef, he's not as severe as somebody who's renegade for the whole Torah. It's not the same level.
So that means the person has the desire, but he probably doesn't know, and perhaps.
No, he knows, but he just can't hold himself back.
Okay, the desire got the better.
Exactly, okay. got the better of him.
Okay.
He can't hold himself back, right? So that's what it means. Teavon. Mashma de la porek olu bika lemidak. So it says hide masu echidame. It says also we have to deduce. What does this mean, masu? In other words, the informer. What is that talking about? Elach is bichal Yisrael meshumadu. If he's somebody who does it, out of spite, he informs on Jews. He's considered to be like a renegade then, right? And if it's just because of some kind of a desire, so then how is that any different than any other avera, any other sin? He's not considered to be somebody who removes the yoke of heaven upon himself. When he's transgressing one mitzvah, for lust. So he answers, it's possible that when a person is he's an informer because of some kind of a desire, he's considered to be also somebody who removes the yoke from upon himself. So why is that? Because when it comes to the informers, it's considered to be a very big sin. In other words, bigger than the others. So therefore, it has a special status. Very severe status it has. So it's also possible to say that the one who's an informer could be that he does it for desire. To have a porek all, it's considered to be one who removes the yoke of heaven from himself. Because you may have thought to say, since informers are not written in the Torah, doesn't say in the Torah, don't inform. So they learn it from this pasuk, right? Which is, don't stand by the blood of your brother. So it's learned by allusion, sort of. And afilu shelot te'avon, even though it's not for lust, it's not considered to be like somebody who removes the yoke of heaven. Hakam mashmalan, so comes to teach you that he is. Or if he's there, so it says, according to this, it's possible that because of this, that Rabbeinu of the Tur left out this halakha. Because everybody knows, right, that being an informer is considered to be one of the biggest sins in the Torah. So it's considered to be like a Jew who is renegade for idolatry. Says Ran, this perek, Rashi. So it says, it seems from Rashi, also from Rambam, the Masur Israel Meshumad, that the informer and the Jewish renegade, the Deoraita Mifsale, these prohibitions are from the Torah, the disqualification. The Acharim Pershu, but it says others explain the Medina Itnehu Bikshira, so it says, according to the Torah, really they should be putting tefillin. But from the rabbis, since he removed the yoke of the mitzvot upon himself, he's only considered to be a renegade for one mitzvah. So what does that mean? That even if he has something which is allowed, he'll do something which is not allowed. So he does it out of spite. So the rabbis therefore decreed upon him that he's not allowed to put tefillin in a person like that, even though according to the Torah he is. Okay, some different variations here on how to answer this question. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch and how he paskins over here regarding this. Mm-hmm. So says Shulchan Aruch, Tefillin sheketaban eved o isha, right? If the tefillin was written by a slave or a woman, or katan or a child, afilu yeh lechinuch, even though he's already at the age of training, or kuti, or a kuti, which is a goy, or mumar, or somebody who's a renegade for idolatry, or moser lenasin, or he's an informer. Pesulin mishum diktiv ukshatam. They're all disqualified. Why? Because it says ukshatam uktavtam, right? It says you should tie them and you should write them. So what does that mean? Kol sheno b'kshira. Whoever doesn't tie it, eno mamimya, or eno mamin, or doesn't believe in it, eno b'ktiva. You cannot write it either. So therefore, all these categories, either they're absolved from tefillin, or because they don't believe in it, so therefore they cannot write it either. Okay, any questions on that? I guess we'll go on. Okay. Let's look at that. So it says, he's also disqualified, the Torah says, right, this person who cannot write it, he's also disqualified from making it or fixing it, whatever. That's what it says in the Rambam. This language of Rambam. The only person who makes tefillin is a Jew that making it is just like writing it. Ashin she'osim be'or, because of the shin that they make in the leather, the Fichach, he says, therefore, im chifan goy, so therefore, if the goy covered it, or tifaran, or stitched it, did the stitching, pasulot, they are pasul. Vehu adin lechol pasul l'ktaban. So it says, also, the rule is that whoever is disqualified from writing it, shelo yaseh otam ad kanashon. You shouldn't also make them. So same thing, right? Applies. So it goes across the board, right? That's what he means to say. If you don't wear it, that means you don't write it, and that also means that you don't make it. Ad kanashon. So it says we learn from here. We can deduce from here. Since he wrote, the reason that he wrote it's pasul, mipnei ashin, because of the shin, lo yifasel al yedei goy, then it shouldn't be pasul by way of a goy, ela asiyat ashin. Only the shin should be pasul. The shin, the goy makes the shin. לבד, וצריך לומר, דכיוון דאש בעשייתן, דבר שהוא ראוי לפסל. So he says, you have to say like this, that since that there is, by making them something which can be disqualified, even if it's made by a pasul, it's made by somebody who's pasul, and the chalek ben ktsat asiyata ktsat asiyata. So then what we do is, we don't make a differentiation between doing this part of it or that part of it. All parts of it are disqualified, right? To be done by others. The ones who don't write them and the ones who don't wear them. And also, as we said, right, the ones who don't believe in them. Okay, good. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. So it says the Shulchan Aruch, Kol shepasul kotvan pasul bechol tikun asiyatan. Whoever is disqualified to write the tefillin is also pasul to make the tefillin, right? So it's the same, one and the same, goes across the board. Okay, very good, very simple. Let's go to the next one, Gimel. Here's Gimel. Katab Rabbeinu b'Hilchot Sefer Torah. Right, so says the Beit Yosef like this. Rabbeinu, the Torah, writes in the laws of Sefer Torah, and you're there. Ger shechazar lesuro mechamat ira. Ooh, wow, interesting. Right, you have a convert, and they went back to their own ways, their old ways, right? Why is that? Because of fear, right? So what does that mean? They threaten them, people. That if they stay Jewish, they'll kill them. So because of that, they went back to being, living like a goy. Right? So he says, "Kasher lichtov a Sefer Torah." He's allowed to write a Sefer Torah. A person like this, interesting. So why is that? Because he's doing it out of fear, right? That's the whole point. He's being threatened. Yeah. So. By the way, I was just speaking to somebody the other day, somebody who lives in one of the Arab countries, and she was talking to me about religion, this and that, So she told me, she said, if I would convert to Judaism, they would kill me. Where she lives, it's considered to be like a capital crime. If you convert to Judaism, so it's like life and death. That's the way it was in Europe, by the way, also in Europe, in the old days, if somebody would convert, they may kill him. It was very common in those days. So that's what we're talking about. So says Bet Yosef regarding that. Comes out from this Perek Sholech. So it says Maran that just like you can write a Sefer Torah, you can also write Tefillin, right? What's the difference? It's all the same. Mezuzot and also mezuzot. There you go. Okay, good. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch on that. Gimel. So it says like this: Ger shechazar ledato mechamat ira. Says the convert, right, who returned back to his old religion. Why? Because of fear. Kasher lichtov tefillin. He's allowed to write tefillin. Interesting. By the way, I guess that teaches you about the Maranos, because since they became, changed their religion because of fear. I guess it's the same thing. Apparently. Okay, good. But here's the thing, right? There's a chidush here anyway. There's a novel idea here. You know what the novel idea is? That the truth is, right, there's the Shulchan Aruch in your day, it talks about this issue, that there are certain sins that a person has to give up his life and not do those sins, especially when they're in public, right? So idolatry is one of them, So if they come to you and say, okay, either you do adultery or idolatry or give up your life, we're going to kill you. So he has to give up his life if it's in public, right? This scenario. So the question comes up like this, right? That if he has to give up his life and he didn't, like this guy, right? This guy didn't give up his life. He went back and he lived, he went back to church and he didn't give up his life. But still, even though he's a sinner for not giving up his life, but it doesn't disqualify him from writing the mezuzot and tefillin and the Sefer Torah. He's not that bad, because after all, it's out of fear, That's the chidush.
Kavod Harav, buying it or writing it?
I'm sorry, what's that again?
Buying it or writing it, the convert that went back to his old ways.
Yeah.
Is it, maybe I got confused, is it buying the Sefer Torah or Tefillin or Mezuzot or
No,
writing?
we're talking about writing it. They can write one.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay, good. Very good. Okay. Let's go to Daled. Kitaban mean iganzu, right? So what does this mean? If it was written by a heretic, they have to be buried, right? Perek HaSholech, it's over there in the Gemara. Amar Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, Naktin on Sefer Torah shekitabo min isaref. It says over there, the halacha is that if the Sefer Torah was written by a heretic, right, it has to be burned. Kitabo goy iganez. If it was written by a goy, we just bury it. We don't burn it. Nimtza biyad min. If it was found in the hands of a heretic, iganez should be buried. Nimtza biyad goy. If it was found in the hands of goy, amer la iganez. Some say it should be buried. Amer la korin bo. And some say we can even read it. Right? Use it. You can use it. Sefer Torah shekatabo goy. Right, the Sefer Torah is written by a goy. Tane Chada Isaref. One says it should be burnt. One Braita. The Tane Idach and another Braita says Iganez should be buried. The Tane Idach Bekorin Bo, and another one says we read it. We can even read it. Lo kasha, but it's not really a contradiction. Why? Chada Tanya Isaref. The one that says they should be burned. Rabbi Eliezer. It's according to Rabbi Eliezer. So he holds that when a goy writes a Sefer Torah, when he writes the names of God, he's really referring to the idolatry, right? So therefore, it's got to be burned according to this. The Tanya, not which it says in the Braita, Iganez, that it should be buried. Hi Tana, this is the Tana like this. The Tana that teaches Rav Hamnuna Bere de Rava Mifashunia Sefer Torah Tefillin Mezuzot Ketaban mean it says right all these things which are written by a heretic, Masur or informer, right? The goy or eved or a slave or a isha or a woman, katan, kuti, right? Goy Israel meshumad, and a Jewish renegade, pesulim. These are all pasul. Shenema, as it says, ukshatam uchtavtam, like it says, you should tie them and you should write them. Kol sheyesh no b'kshira, whoever can tie it, yesh no b'ktiva, he also writes it. The chol she'eno b'kshira, and whoever doesn't tie it, and no b'ktiva, it doesn't write it. We had the Tanya, and that which we learned in the Braita, Korin Bo, they were allowed to read it even. Ki hai Tana, it says according to this Tana, the Tanya that he teaches the Braita, Lokhin Sfarim minagoim, that we're allowed to buy books, meaning what? Even Sefer Torah from a goy. In many places, he says, just only that what that should be written properly. You see that it's written properly. Rashi mean, right? Rashi explains that if it's a heretic, right? What does it mean to be a heretic in this context, right? So he says aduk labudazar. That means that he is very, right, fervent about idolatry. Right, he's very vehement about it. He's very stuck to it, right? Kigon Komer Israel. So what does that mean? Like a Jewish priest, right? What does that mean? He's a Jew, but he became he became the Pope. I don't know, God knows, one of those guys, There are some Jews that became popes. So God forbid. Right, so it says, Yisaref, gotta be burned, that thing. The Vadai Hashem Avodah Zarah Kitavo. So for sure, right, a person like this, he wrote it for idolatry. Nimtza, Biad Min Iganez. If it was written, if it would have found by a min, right, which is like a heretic, whatever, should be buried. Safek Kitavo, Safek Mitzao. So here, right, we're not really sure if he wrote it or not. Maybe he just found it, because Sherhu could be that it's kosher. So therefore, we don't burn it, we just bury it. Nimtza biad goy, if it was found in the hands of the goy, Amr lai ganes, some say it should be buried. Misfeka shemehu kitabo, because it's a doubt. Maybe he wrote it, right? We're not really sure. The Amr la korino, and some say we can even read it. The safek svekahu, because it's a double doubt. There's a double doubt here. What's a double doubt? The Shema Yisrael Kitabo. Maybe it was written by a Jew. If you're gonna tell me who Kitabo that he wrote it, Shema Nimkori Yisrael Kitaban. Maybe he just wrote it to sell it to a Jew, right? So it's kosher. But Lo Hashem Avodah Zarah. He didn't write it for idolatry. Okay, so interesting. But Tosfot says Tosfot Katrush. Then he read the Rav. So it doesn't seem right. The Rav Nachman the Kamar Kitabo Goy. Because Rav Nachman said that if it was written by a goy, Iganez, that it should be buried. Hainu afilu ketavo limkor Israel. That's even if he wrote it to sell it to a Jew. The Kama Mefaresh, because they don't want to explain it's Tama Mishum Dechol Sheino Mikshira, because the reason is because whoever doesn't tie it doesn't write it. And Atama de Amrela Korin Bo Mishum Deika Lemitlet Fe. So he says, rather, the reason that they say, some say that you can even read it, is because it's more likely, he says, that it was written by a Jew. The mikle the tfed sheisel kitavo, then derech goy liftov. Why? Because usual, Stam goy doesn't know how to read doesn't know how to write a sefer Torah, right? Who taught him how to write a sefer Torah, right? He has to be quite learned for that. Oh, who can teach him that? So it's more likely that it was done by a Jew. וכתבה, ורבנו כתב, so then he goes, ורבנו כתב כאן, so he says here, Rabbeinu wrote the Tur, the Tefillin sheketavah mean that if the Tefillin was written by a heretic, Iganzu, they should be buried. Vilchot Sefer Torah katav Sefer Torah sheketavah mean yisaref. But over there in the Sefer, laws of Sefer Torah, he writes that it should be burned. So what's the difference, right? The Tefillin is more holy than the Sefer Torah? What does that mean? Pegam Rabbeinu Rucham, so also Rabbeinu Rucham, he says, Katav Gabet Tefillin. Regarding Tefillin, he wrote, Kitaban Goy, that if it was written by a Goy, who's a heretic, right? Like a priest, whatever. Iganzu, they should be buried. Begabe Sefer Torah, regarding Sefer Torah, Katav Sefer Torah, Sheketavo mean that over there he writes that if it was written by a heretic, Yisaref, it should be burned. So it says, it seems like they want to pass like Rav Nachman. What does that mean? The Sefer Torah, Sheketavo mean the Sefer Torah which was written by a heretic, Yisaref, it should be burned. But when it comes to Tefillin and Mezuzot, we pass like Rav Hanuna, not like Rav Nachman. It's very interesting. Why would we do that? That if he writes that if a goy wrote them, they should be buried. Because since Rav Nachman only mentioned Sefer Torah, it only implies that it's only regarding Sefer Torah he said that Yisaref, they should be burned. But not with Tefillin. What's the difference, by the way, right? You have to ask that question, right? Why would Sefer Torah be any worse or better than Tefillin? They actually 10 times about it. Says, what's the reason? There you go, right? The Sefer Torah gam haminim kotvim oto. Oh, so he says, you know what it is? There's a difference between them, because when it comes to Sefer Torah, even the heretics like to write Sefer Torah. They think it's something worthwhile. Because they want to learn, the Bible, right? They want to know how to learn it and to distort everything there. So in order to distort it, they have to first learn it. So therefore, they have more of a tendency to write these things. Right? Okay. So therefore, he says for sure, if he wrote a Sefer Torah, it's for idolatry. That was the purpose of it. About Tefillin, when it comes to Tefillin, he says, he wrote them for a Jew. So there is to say, he didn't write it for idolatry. He says, because of this, Rav Nachman nami lo yisarfu. According to Rav Nachman also, they shouldn't be burned. Ela iganzu, they should be buried. So it's possible this was the opinion of the Rif also, it says. Be'arosh and Arosh, shekatvu be'ilchot Sefer Torah, because they wrote in the laws of Sefer Torah, that was Rav Nachman said. Sefer Torah shekatvu mean Sefer Torah, which was written by a heretic, Yisaref, should be burned, or be'ilchot Tefillin and katvu. But when it came to the laws of Tefillin, they said, right, Tani Rav Hamnuna, Bered Rav Mifashunia, Sefer Torah, Tefillin, Mezuzot, Sheketavah mean Yisaref. Over there they said should be burned, all these things, right? Even Mezuzot and Tefillin. But Tani Chada Iganzu, and one says they should be buried. So again, right, we have the same problem here, right? One says burning, one says burial. So it says, it implies that since it's a machloket and a dispute between Tanaim, and they didn't really decide like one of them. The halacha wasn't decided. So therefore, we pass like the one that says you should be buried. The Sefer Torah the halacha keman de'amar yisaref. Because when it comes to Sefer Torah, they hold the halacha like the one that says it should be burned. So he says they didn't refrain from writing it in law of Tefillin. When it comes to the din of Tefillin and mezuzot, because they relied on whatever they wrote regarding the laws of Sefer Torah. Because over there, right, regarding Sefer Torah, it says that if it was written by a heretic, it should be burned. אבל הרמב"ם כתב פרק א', but says Rambam in the first פרק, Sefer Torah, Tefillin ומזוזות, שכתבן mean, they were written by a heretic, these things, they should be burned, he says, the Rambam. So he holds they all have to be burned. Mashma the sphere that Rav Nachman, Sefer Torah, the Nekat Lab Davka. So it implies that when Rav Nachman said Sefer Torah, he was also referring to all the other ones as well. This was Tefillin, same thing. They're all the same. Makes sense, by the way. Elahu Adin Tefillin. The same also applies with Tefillin. Mezuzot and also Mezuzot. Veshli Tmua ala Rosh. So he says there is to ask a question about the Rif and the Rosh. Shkatvu, that they wrote like this. The Tanya Rabbi Chinana, that Rabbi Chinana teaches, the Rabbi and the son of Rabbi, the Sefer Torah, Tefillin and Mezuzot. All these three things, Shkataban mean, which was written by a heretic, Isaref, they should be burned. The Rabbi Chinana lo halak ben mean the goy. So Rabbi Chinana didn't differentiate between a heretic and a goy. It's the same thing for him, according to him. Masur be'ebed, and also the informer and the slave. It says, regarding all of them, it says that the pasul. Stam behen ketavu to mean tzanei saref. And they wrote that when it comes to heretic is to be burnt. So it says in the other one it teaches Pesulim Sitama, Pasul Stam, in undefined manner. The Betfinin Mezuzot Lo Ashkechan. There's also that with Tefillin and Mezuzot, you don't find Man de Amar Behedya Isaref. We don't find that one who says explicitly they should be burned. Even though regarding Sefer Torah, Tane Chada, that one teaches Isaref that it should be burnt. So it's possible to say that it's not only going on Sefer Torah, it's talking about all of them. Same thing applies to Tefillin Mezuzot. Right, Kitavo b'Sefer Torah, and this because of this, they Katvu Sefer Torah Tefillin Mezuzot. They wrote all three of them. Tane Chada Isaref. So one said they should be burned. In any case, Kashe. In any case, that's difficult. Why? Lama she'uchachnu the mash'uchachnu the mashmal midimehem. That which we proved that it implies according to their words. Shem Salvin, they hold that Rav Nachman Davka b'Sefer Torah hold them. Rav Nachman only holds regarding the Sefer Torah like this. He said that they should be burned. But lo between not with Mezuzot. The Dochak Lomar, so it says it's forced to say Shegirsa Achet Haita Lehem. They had a different text here in this Braita. We had the Tane Rabbi Chinana Beredav regarding this Braita here. בפרק תחילת מ"ב עמוד ב' מנחות. Nami Ita, it says over there, it says also that Neha Matnita, this the Mishnah is also brought there. I'm sorry, the Braita. He Shnuya Kemo Shkatabti. So it says it's over there. It's taught like I wrote. Ita the Perek HaSholeach that says in the Perek HaSholeach. The She'arosh Atzmo, it says also the Rosh himself. Kitabah Perek HaSholeach. He wrote it in the Perek of Sholeach. The Gemara Memhei, Simon Memhei, Girsat Sfarim Didan, like the text that we have in our books. The Gemara and the Gemara. So it says, therefore it seems to me, Shehem Sovin, they hold the Chiyamar Rav Nachman Sefer Torah. When Rav Nachman said the Sefer Torah, Shekatabomin, which is written by a heretic, he said that should be burned. Kuadin Tefillin Mezuzot. Same thing also applies to Tefillin Mezuzot. Be'apal Gab the Rabbi Chinana Kayal Min Behade Goy. Masur be'ebed bekulhu, and even though this rabbi, he included the min, right, the heretic, with all these other categories, which is the goy and the informer. And the slave, and all of them says they're pasul. The ihu tane the kulhu says, nevertheless, since he teaches, right, that the psulin talu adavar bo, so they attributed this to him. Katru almin tane chada isaref. So therefore they said, right, regarding a heretic, that one teaches that it should be burned, but tane chada, and one teaches that ganez, that it should be buried. Umashma desfira lehu implies that they hold Keman de Amar Isaref, that the one who says that it should be burned, even though they didn't decide laws of tefillin, halacha k'divei who's the halacha like? Samchu al ma shekatvu be'ilchot sefer Torah. They relied on whatever they wrote in laws of sefer Torah. The divrei Rav Nachman, the words of Rav Nachman, the Amar, who said over there, Sefer Torah sheketavo minu saref, that he says, right, that the Sefer Torah which was written by a heretic should be burned. So he says it was already explained from their words in Hilchot Tefillin, laws of Tefillin, Shem Sovim, that they hold the Tefillin and Mezuzot Sefer Torah shavim hem. They hold that all these things are equal, right? Tefillin, Sefer Torah, Mezuzah. Regarding this halacha. Yukach says, therefore, kulam hecha de ketaran min. Therefore, all these things, right? If it was written by a heretic, right, which we said, right, what is this heretic guy? We're talking about somebody who's like deeply into idolatry, heavily into idolatry. Isarfu, they should be burned. Ukedat Rambam, like the Rambam. So that, in other words, bottom line is, we go like the Rambam, who says that regarding all these three things, it should be burnt. If it was written by a real heretic, right? Somebody who's really idolatrous, heretical guy. Okay, very good. Let's see the Shulchan Aruch on this one. So it says like this in Shulchan Aruch: Tefillin shekitavam apikoros. If the tefillin was written by a heretic, right, isarfu, they should be burned. So we go like the Rambam, right, that all of them should be burned. Tefillin, mezuzah, and Sefer Torah. V'yeshomin ganzu, right? There's also another opinion that says that they should be buried. So the rule is, right, stam v'yesh halacha kemo stam, right? When you have a stam halacha, and then yesh, we go like the first one. So therefore, here the halacha is the first opinion that says that they should be burnt. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. So now it goes on, Bit Yosef. Umash katav Rabbeinu biad goy kishanim. That which Rabbeinu said, that if it was found in the hands of a goy, it's kosher. So they already wrote this right over there. But if you find tefillin in the hands of a goy, some say it should be buried. Some say we can read it, right? I guess it's talking about a Sefer Torah. Right? Says the man, that if he gives us though, he says, according to this text, it implies that we go like the last language, the Korimbo, that we do read it. Also Rambam paskins that way. Perek Aleph, v'tama mishum deshchiach tzepeh sheisrael. So why is that, by the way? So he says it's very common that a Jew kitavo lefi she'en derech goy dichtov. In other words, the more common scenario is that it was written by a Jew. Why is that? She'en derech goy dichtov, because stam goy writes your average goy doesn't write Sefer Torah. How does he know how to do that? Avarif Katav Amela, right? But the Rif says, some say Korimbo, some say we read it. Some say they should be buried. Because we're concerned that maybe it was written by a goy. So it seems like he paskins that it should be buried. בזו הגויים ספרי תור יהודים, דתולים ואותם ספרים שלהם. So it says that, however, it's possible that if it was ascertained, right, that the Goyim stole some Jewish books, right, some Sefer Torah. So then he says, the Tolin de Otam Sfarim Shelahem Hayu. So then we assume, right, that these books, Sefer Torah, were belonging to a Jew, since there's definitely high probability. Okay, so therefore it says the Korim Ben, we read them. The Bikiyat Gavna Shechiach Tefei, so this is very common. Ad Kan Leshon Aran, this is the end of the Ran. The Rosh Gores, the Rosh writes like this, Kegiyusat the Rif, like the Rif. Upasak beremazim, he passes that the Sefer Torah Shemitza Biad Goy, the Sefer Torah was found by a Goy, Iganez, it should be buried. Chen Katab Rabbeinu Yerucham also says there, Rabbeinu B'dinei Sefer Torah, laws of Sefer Torah. Yazina Nechumra, we go like the Chumra, Shema Goy Ketavo, maybe the Goy wrote it. V'chen Katab Gamken Rabbeinu B'ilchot Sefer Torah. Also, Rabbeinu writes this in laws of Sefer Torah. But Tema Heach Pasak Kan the Ksherim. So then, how is it? It says it's a wonder. How did he pass over here that they're kosher? If Shar Shehu Sover, it's possible that he holds. That the Machmirinan Yaminan Ganez. That which Machmirinan say it should be buried. Hanu Davka Gabe Sefer Torah. That's not even going to Sefer Torah. Shagoyim Asuim Nichtov Sefer Torah. That's Tzorech Hatzman. Because sometimes the Goy does write a Sefer Torah for his own needs. The heretics, to learn Bible, whatever. To learn it. So it says, therefore, there is concern. There's concern that was written by a Goy. Mishum Achi Aminan Ganez. And therefore we say that it should be buried.
Where is it exactly buried? Is it buried next to a tzaddik or?
You're asking about a Sefer Torah, right?
Or the Tefillin.
Yeah, so they bury it like next to a rabbi or something. Talmid Chacham, a Torah scholar.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you're asking regarding the Sefer Torah, yeah.
And the mezuzot in the Tefillin also, no.
I don't think so. As far as I remember, they don't bother with that.
Okay, thank you.
Only a Sefer Torah because it's like the whole Torah is there, So
Okay,
it's more holy. It's more, So what we say is like this, right? That since this rabbi, this Torah scholar, knew the whole Torah, so let's put the whole Torah by him. One belongs with the other, It's like it's a good match, you know what I mean?
Even though if it was written by a heretic and so on, yeah.
No. If it was written by a heretic, we don't need to get into that stuff.
Okay, so
we're talking about like a good Sefer Torah that got worn out,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so if not, it goes elsewhere to be buried or burned, correct?
Exactly. So what does that mean? It doesn't fit, that Sefer Torah written by a goy should be, sitting by a Torah scholar. You know what I mean? Doesn't fit in. Doesn't. It's not a good match. Right? Okay. So, all right, good. So, yeah. So even though it was found in the hands by in the hands of a heretic, we say that it should be buried. There. So it says because some heretics do write Sefer Torah, so therefore we're concerned that maybe he wrote it himself. But Stam Goy, right, regular Goy, doesn't usually write a Sefer Torah. So it says, granted that when it comes to Sefer Torah, we're concerned to be machmir, to be stringent. But when it comes to Tefillin, even if you find somebody who knows how to write it, Nevertheless, it's not very frequent that they write tefillin, these people. Because the goyim don't use them, they don't need them, so they have nothing to do with these things. So therefore, we're not concerned in their kosher. Okay, so we'll do the Shulchan Aruch and we'll stop here. Very good. So it says in Shulchan Aruch, hey, right? If it was found in the hands of a heretic, right? We don't know who wrote this. So then they should be buried, right? Because we're not really sure, right? If it was written by by a Jew or a heretic or what, right? Or we don't really know who wrote this. So out of doubt, right? We can't burn it, and also we cannot use it. So the next best thing is to bury it. It's like a compromise between the two, It's like a neutral option there. So that's hey. One more. We have one more. So it says the Shulchan Aruch Vav, what about if it was written? It was found in the hands of a goy. We don't know who wrote the Sefer Torah, right? So ksherim, those are kosher, right? So why do we say it's kosher when you found it by a goy? Because Stam goy doesn't write Sefer Torah, right? So we assume that it was written by a Jew. Why would a goy want to write a Sefer Torah, right? They don't know how to do it even, so So therefore, it's not very common. But when it comes to heretic, it's much more likely. Why is that? Because these heretics, right? They're Jews, and they want to study Bible, whatever. So they know how to do it sometimes. So therefore, they write one. It's a different scenario. Okay, got it down. Okay. Hope you understood what I told you. Okay, very good. Chazak Baruch. Thanks for coming tonight. Be blessed with wealth, health, and happiness. See you tomorrow. Visit Hashem.
Amen.
Baruch Hashem, we're moving along well. Soon we're going to be talking about prayers, right? Which is a nice topic. Blessings, Kriyat Shema, prayers, right? And then Sefer Torah, and then we're going to learn about the sanctity of the synagogue, right? The synagogue. So a lot of good things coming up.
Thank you.
All the best.
Amen. Thank you.